Charlie Kirk slams a race-baiting pro-affirmative action leftist and puts his argument to bed. Guys, this is going to be a lot of fun. After all, who doesn't love a good Kirk stomp? See what I did there? Charlie Kirk, as we all know, is a conservative warrior, and he knows how to debunk many of the left's most ridiculous arguments. So we appreciate that, and it's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to get right into it. But first, everybody, do me a big favor here. Like our video, share it around, and if you're new, subscribe to the Resist the Mainstream YouTube channel so we can keep bringing you these great clips. As always, everybody, I'm your host, Darian. Let's get into it.
And my question has to do with affirmative action, and I mentioned several times earlier. In the history of the United States, as we all know, Civil War ended in 1865, and a lot of people think that slavery ended back then, but there was another form that is called indentured servitude that lasted until around the early 1900s, and so this form sort of continued, and then we got the civil rights movement in 1965. And so my question is, given the history, there are injustices done on people of color, and do you think that they deserve some sort of reconciliation, and if so, if not with affirmative action, what form? And if affirmative action is the answer, which according to your answer earlier, not exactly what you agree with, but for what length, right? How long should it last? No, that's my question.
No, like no reconciliation, no reparations. We've already overly prioritized in society. I'll prove it to you. There is institutional black privilege in society today, and no one wants to say it out loud. Blacks can get into college with lower test scores. They get more acting contracts. They're literally in every other television commercial, right? They're allowed to, literally, if a white person says a certain word, you could be completely terminated from public life, right? And so we spent trillions of dollars post-Great Society, post the Civil Rights Act paired with the Great Society. Did any of that help? No, actually, blacks got poorer on average. And so before the Great Society, 75% of blacks growing up in America had a father and a mother in the home. True. Now that number is anywhere between 20 to 25%. So America got significantly less racist. We spent trillions of dollars in our urban corridor. We implemented affirmative action in our government hiring practices, in our corporate hiring practices, in our college admissions. And yet blacks on average are poorer than they were in proportion to the 1960s. What changed?
Speaking of the Great Society, it was signed into law by President Lyndon Baines Johnson. LBJ was infamously a very prolific racist. He hated black people, used the N-word very casually all the time. In fact, there was an infamous quote that was attributed to him in which he was said to have declared, "We'll have those N-words voting Democrats for over 200 years. Sounds like a pretty nasty guy. Also, a quick little side note on what the Great Society did in practice. It incentivized black women to be single and not have a father in the house because that was how they could get more money via welfare. Essentially, don't marry a husband who's going to take care of you. Marry Uncle Sam instead. Just sick.
And the answer is that we are not confident, we're not honestly courageous enough to empower black voices to say, hey, you have to fix the problem in your own communities. It's not about white guilt or white pandering. It's about, how about you stay with the woman you impregnate? How about you stop embracing gangster rap culture? How about you stop listening to music that glorifies the worst part of society? And people are afraid to say this. And Thomas Sowell wrote an entire book about it. And the affirmative action creates race resentment is what ends up happening. And while I acknowledge that, yes, of course there were laws that were unjust in the past, we've already lived under the biggest reparations program in the history of modern society, and it's been an abysmal failure. You want to know what true liberation would look like? Black America taking responsibility for their actions and doing the 3 to 4 things that are necessary to succeed in America. Getting married before you have kids, graduating from high school, get a job, any job, and not committing crimes. This is what drives me nuts about the looting stuff, is that people say, well, it's just a matter of, it's a matter of survival. How about you stop acting like a criminal? How about you stop stealing stuff and we justify it? And the more that we do that, the more we are building a baseline of an acceptance. And here's the thing, just so we're clear, blacks make up about 12% of the American population, more specifically black men, 6% of the American population. They're responsible for 60% of the murders.
Fact.
That's a thought crime. You have 6% of the American population doing 60% of the murdering. And yet white people are the problem? No. It's black privilege, and I'm not afraid to talk about it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
But Charlie, that's racist. What a white supremacist thing to say. That's a joke, obviously. What I do find kind of funny about this is people often make this claim, it doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum that be on, that if you get a black person to speak about black issues, for instance, that'll somehow make it more credible or better. I don't really think that's true, and that's not the case. I mean, there is the very clear and obvious reality that a person who's black probably doesn't hate their own race. Sure, we can all agree with that. But just take a look at, say, Candace Owens or Brandon Tatum. They, in the past years, have spoken on black issues many, many times. And very often they get met with hatred and vitriol from the left, just like any white person like Charlie Kirk does. People will call Owens or Tatum these stupid racist names like Uncle Tom or Raccoon, saying they're betraying black people by preaching decent values somehow. And by the way, that's not at all criticism on Tatum or Owens, to clarify. I like them both very much, and they're both very smart people, and God bless them both. The point is that this kind of race baiting of the left, there's really no way to stop it other than to basically tell them, screw you, we don't care. That really is what it comes down to. As for this sky-high murder rate within black communities, many people will counter this by saying, well, it's a matter of over-policing. We have too many police on the streets in the black neighborhoods, and that's why it looks like their murder rate is higher. I don't think so. If anything, we have an under-policing issue in the black communities. Might get canceled for that one. But it's true. It's just reality, all right? You ever look around a major city and notice how many for hiring signs there are for police? Hint, it's not because they're overstaffed, just saying. Also, people like to forget that we lived through 2020 and the summer of love of Black Lives Matter. Well, I seem to remember a certain catchphrase they were uttering a lot. What was that again? Oh yeah, defund the police. And they succeeded in many cases in many major blue cities. Such a thing suggests that there is no issue of over-policing or over-incarceration and that it's a bunch of hot garbage. If anything, we're facing the opposite problem.
Follow-up?
You want to follow up? Sorry, you want to follow up?
I have a short follow-up. So thank you for your response, and that was great insight. And it sounds like you're personally affected to an extent through the effects that you talked about, but through the black communities. And since we are affected, and you as well, do you think we have some sort of responsibility to sort of fix the problems on, instead of just giving our opinion, actually doing to an amount of what we can do? And if so, what would that look like?
Yeah, it's a great question. So here's what's amazing is despite the fact that Asians have harder job getting into college, harder job getting high, Asians are like the wealthiest group in America by far, despite all the things that are thrown. And you might ask the question, why? Well, it's because Asian Americans stay loyally married far more than any other ethnic group. They prioritize education, and I don't want to overly generalize, but Asian moms don't put up with their kids committing crimes.
It's almost as if this whole idea of white privilege and white superiority is a myth, and it's just false. It sounds a lot more like it's two-parent privilege or having a family with decent values privilege. I think those would be more fair terms to use. Just saying.
Am I right? Right? A bunch of Asians looting? That dog does not hunt in the Korean American community or the Chinese American community. So yeah, there's like strong social fabric and cultural fabric that say it's not acceptable to engage in this sort of behavior. So no, I don't think we should ask for any special treatment. I think what is the goal? The goal is to do our best to try to create a society that values meritocracy and values work ethic and things you can change, not things you can't change. Thank you, man. God bless you. Thank you.
Black privilege. I like that one. I think I might have to steal it. Well, everybody, we really hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you so much for tuning in. As always, do us a big favor. Comment below. Let us know what you liked about the video, what kind of content you want to see in the future, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks, and God bless.